I checked my phone and noticed I had 13 missed calls, all from my mother-in-law, Martha. Not again. While thinking about this, my phone vibrated once more. I answered, "Hello." Martha sounded angry. "Excuse me. Wasn't the allowance for this month supposed to be $3,000? It's overdue? Excuse me. I told you to send the allowance. This month's payment hasn't been deposited yet." Martha ranted, ignoring my situation and only thinking about what she wanted. I was fed up with her. Even in this situation, she doesn't think about what she says and does, right? I have no choice but to go for my last option. I gathered my thoughts and told my phone, "Your son has passed away, so I can't send an allowance anymore. I'm Jennifer Smith, 32 years old, a busy woman working at a major financial firm and a housewife. I got married about 2 years ago to my beloved husband, Mark, whom I met through our shared hobbies. His kind nature and warm smile drew me in, and we quickly developed feelings for each other. After a year of dating, we got engaged, both convinced that we were the best for each other. We lived together without major quarrels and decided to marry. Everything was smooth until a problem arose. Martha, my mother-in-law. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago, leaving Martha as Mark's only family. The trouble began when I first visited her before our wedding. "Nice to meet you." Martha clearly showed displeasure. "So, you're Mark's fiancé?" "Yes, I'm Jennifer Miller." "You're a rather plain girl. I wonder what Mark sees in you, huh?" I couldn't tell if she was joking or serious. Having such words from my loved one's mother shocked me. Observing my distress, Mark scowled at Martha. "Hey, Mom, what's with the sudden harsh words? How can you say such things about the person I chose?" "No, Mark, I'm just trying to pick a suitable woman for you." "Pick? I'm the one who chose her. You have no right to interfere. Don't say it in such a cold way. I'm just telling the truth because I care about you. If you were really thinking of me, you'd simply support us. Why can't you understand such a simple thing?" An argument unfolded between mother and son right before my eyes, making the air heavy. As it was my first meeting with Martha, I wasn't in a position to intervene. Despite the lingering awkwardness, we eventually conveyed our intent to marry. As we were leaving, Martha called out to Mark, sounding somewhat disgruntled. "Mark, can I have a word? You're going to keep that promise after you get married, right?" "What promise?" "You know about the allowance." "Ah, that. Yes, I'll be sure to take care of that. Can we not discuss it here, please?" "Well, I was just asking." The tension between my husband and his mother persisted, and discomfort hung thick in the air. In the car on the way home, I questioned Mark about the conversation he had with his mom as we were leaving. "Hey, Mark, about the talk you had with your mom." "Yeah, I should have told you about it, Jennifer. I heard something about an allowance. After my dad passed away, I've been sending money to my mom every month." "How much?" $2,000. "What? $2,000? I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. He sighed deeply and began to explain slowly. "Actually, my mom has a debt. She lost a lot of money at a casino a long time ago, and she's still paying it off. Her health isn't great these days, so she spends a lot of time at home. But she still needs money to live, right? But $2,000, isn't that a bit too much? If I try to lower the amount, she keeps calling me over and over. And no matter what, a mother is still a mother. I worry about her living alone." "I see. Mark is really devoted to his mother, but that makes sense. Since his father passed away, Martha has been the only family he has left. Regardless of her character, she's still his beloved mother. At that time, I only saw my husband as a kind person. 2 months after our wedding, during my lunch break one day, I got a call on my smartphone. The call was from Martha. When I answered with a hello, Martha began to speak cheerfully. "Jennifer, long time no see. Can we chat for a bit?" "Yes, what can I do for you?" "Well, I was hoping you could start sending me money." "Excuse me?" I was so taken aback, I couldn't find words to respond. However, Martha seemed excited to continue the conversation. "You mentioned before that you're working for a financial company, right?" That means you have a good salary, doesn't it? Well, not exactly. What, you're lying to avoid giving me money? That's not what I mean. Then what is it? But Martha, you're still receiving financial support from Mark, aren't you? To my question, Martha responded defiantly. So what? Jennifer sternly expressed her feelings. Martha, getting $2,000 monthly support is a big deal. And yet you're asking for more. Really? You think so? If you were to send me an additional $1,000, I could avoid burdening Mark. What do you mean by that? Well, I have Mark as a guarantor for my debts. If I fail to make payments, the debt collectors will go after him. Do you understand? But aren't you using part of Mark's $2,000 to pay back the debt? I'm short. I haven't told Mark, but I have a significant amount of debt. Martha's tone made it clear that this was a fact. Even her husband was unaware of it. With future plans of having children, our expenses were set to increase. On top of that, taking over Martha's debt wasn't an easy task. But if Martha's payments fell behind and the debt landed on Mark, the interest would likely accumulate significantly by then. If I refused to send money, it would eventually become a problem for my husband. It seemed better for Martha to clear her debt now. Reluctantly, I agreed to Martha's proposal. All right, I'll start sending you money. Really? Good God, Jennifer. I knew you would say that. The total, with Mark's contribution, will be $3,000. But this means you can pay off your debt, right? Yes, of course. I should be able to pay it all off in about a year. You promise, right? You'll make sure to pay off all your debts? I get it. So I'll be expecting it from this month onwards. Martha ended the call abruptly. The combination of physical exhaustion from work and this emotional burden only added to my stress. $1,000 a month, that's going to be rough, but it's also to prevent future problems for us. After all, if Martha can't make a living, it will upset Mark as well. That night, I promptly reported the matter to my husband. He told me I didn't have to do this, but I had already given my word to Martha, and it was a decision made for our future well-being. Mark expressed his gratitude and understanding, wearing a sorry expression throughout. Time passed, and 2 years have gone by. The financial support we initially thought would last a year is still ongoing, and even now, we're sending $3,000 every month to Martha. Moreover, about 2 months ago, Mark fell ill and hasn't been able to work. He's on sick leave, receiving disability benefits, but it's much less than his previous salary. Last month, I managed to transfer $3,000 to Martha from my savings, but if this situation continues, it will be very challenging. Shockingly, Martha has not visited her sick son even once. Despite informing her about his hospitalization, she doesn't show up and only contacts me to ask, "You're still sending the money, right?" I was furious and decided to talk to Mark about it. Mark, listen. Isn't it wrong that Martha is only concerned about money despite your condition? We need to seriously consider what to do moving forward. Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. I don't want to put more strain on you, Jennifer. This month, too, she's bombarding me with calls and messages, asking if we've sent the money yet. Can you believe it? How could she focus solely on money when her son is unwell? Mark expressed his frustration at his mother, his face showing signs of weariness. Then, with a sudden idea, Mark exclaimed, "I've got it," and flashed a sly grin. "What is it, Mark?" I inquired. "Well, this is our last option. I've thought of something unconventional." "Yeah, for my mom." "What?" Mark proposed a plan beyond my imagination. While it might be considered inappropriate, it appeared to be the only way to get Martha to comprehend. A few weeks later, Mark was discharged from the hospital. Since Martha hadn't responded to any of our messages, we didn't inform her about Mark's release. In the past 2 weeks, Martha had persistently demanded the money. While Mark and I were enjoying a cup of tea, a message popped up on my phone. Upon checking, I saw 13 missed calls from Martha again. As expected, my phone vibrated once more. It was another call from Martha. "Hello," I responded, activating the speaker microphone so that Mark could also listen. Martha immediately started shouting. Listen, where's the $3,000 for this month? Excuse me, that's right. The money for this month hasn't been transferred yet. Do you realize Mark is now? I began, but Martha cut me off, saying, I don't care if he's in the hospital or whatever. It's none of my business. You're working at a good place, right? You must have plenty of savings. Hurry up and transfer it here. Martha was yelling angrily. Eventually, she said something unbelievable. Listen, since you married Mark, if he can't pay, you have to pay me. Understand? If you refuse, I'll make you the guarantor. Got it? At that moment, something inside me snapped. She was openly expressing her demands without considering our situation at all. I had reached my breaking point with her. I had no choice but to resort to the last option. I firmly declared into my smartphone, Mark has passed away. I can't send you any more money. At these words, Martha blurted out a baffled what. This was the final step that my husband suggested, to lie to Martha about Mark's death and observe her reaction. If she showed any sign of sadness, reflected on her behavior, and apologized, we would continue to support her financially. But if she didn't reflect and demanded money, we would sever ties completely. Deep down, I believed that even someone like Martha would deeply reflect on her actions if she were told that her own son had died. But in the very next moment, Martha burst into loud laughter. Yay, what's so funny? I asked. Well, isn't it obvious? If Mark is dead, that means his inheritance will be distributed to me too. Excuse me. I've been looking into it since I heard that Mark was sick. Listen here, 2/3 of Mark's assets are yours, but 1/3 is mine. I was at a loss for words. I never thought that when she first heard that her son was sick, she wouldn't look into treatment, but into how the inheritance would be divided. My anger surpassed. I was simply dumbfounded. My husband seemed to feel the same way, and as our eyes met, he slowly nodded. This was the signal to continue with the plan. Once again, I spoke firmly to Martha. Martha, did you hear what I said? Mark is dead. I heard, and what about it? Aren't you sad your own son passed away before you? You just make sure to send me some. I won't let you get away with not doing it. With a click, the phone line was cut off, and a dial tone echoed. I glanced at my husband and saw that he was shaking, his face red with anger. Mark, are you okay? I asked. As I asked, my husband looked into my eyes and said, I'm cutting ties with her. She'll likely come here eventually, demanding money. Let's wait until then, okay? But are you really okay with this, cutting off ties just like that? I inquired. Yeah, I have no regrets. After that call, she's no mother. My husband's eyes were filled with hatred, and I felt the same way. A person who only thinks about money over her own son's life is not family to me. A few days later, as we expected, Martha came to our house. For the time being, I decided to hide my husband in the next room and deal with Martha myself. Then Martha approached me with a face like a demon. Hey, give me Mark's inheritance right now, she demanded. Again with that. Anything else to say? He's already dead, isn't he? It's pointless to say anything now. Yet you never even visited him. What are you saying? Are you really his mother? You're so annoying. Give me the inheritance right away. I don't mind getting a lawyer. Speaking more would be a waste of time. Just as I thought that, my husband emerged from the next room. Seeing him, Martha let out a startled gasp, as if she had seen a ghost. Mark, why weren't you dead? Long time no see, Mom. Sorry, but the news about my death was a lie. Lie. How could you be so disrespectful? I wanted to confirm your true nature, Mom. I was curious about how you'd handle the allowance if your son died. But you turned out to be a gold digger, just as I suspected. I got that perfectly. What? How dare you call your mother a gold digger? Silence. I'm cutting ties with a toxic parent like you. Martha's mouth was agape at my husband's angry shouts. She could not come to terms with the fact that her own son was severing ties with her. What? What does this mean, Mark? It means exactly what I said. I can't consider someone like you as my mother. No way. Then what about the allowance? Do you really think I would? You're on your own with the debts. We're moving. Wait, please. If you do that, what about my living expenses? With tears in her eyes, Martha reached out to my husband. He forcefully shook off her hand, looked at her coldly, and said, I don't care about your living expenses. You have been living off us without even a single apology. I really understand your despicable nature now. Don't you dare show up in front of us again. No, wait, Mark. Are you going to abandon your mother? Ignoring her words, my husband seized Martha's arm and guided her to the front door. He tossed her shoes and bag outside and escorted Martha out of the house. Martha created a commotion outside for a while but eventually disappeared, possibly unable to withstand the scrutiny of the neighbors. Despite her multiple attempts to contact us, we ignored all of them. Martha's number was set to be automatically rejected, and we completed our move. Regarding the issue of co-signing for the debts, it became invalid since Martha had made Mark the co-signer without his consent, absolving him of responsibility. Without the allowance from us, Martha seems to be leading a challenging life. It's only natural, given that she had been using the allowance for gambling instead of settling her debts. She still faces a substantial debt burden and is pursued by debt collectors daily. Unable to indulge in gambling anymore, she appears to be working tirelessly from dawn to dusk. It's unlikely that she will be able to fully clear her debts in the foreseeable future. She will have to keep working until she is physically unable to do so. This is entirely a consequence of her own actions. As for us, we are enjoying fulfilling days in our new home. My husband's health has stabilized, and he has returned to work. After some time, we discovered a new life growing in my belly. We are expecting an additional member in our family next year. Moving forward, we aim to cherish happy moments as a family of 3.
Hey guys, I'm Ellie. I want to share how I escaped a bad situation. My husband Luke has always been really close to his mom. At first it was fine until I met Nora, my mother-in-law. She was awful to me, not just mean, but abusive. When Luke and I were dating, she did everything to break us up. But we stayed together and got married. Nora didn't like that at all. Even when we were happy together, she didn't stop. Things got worse when she and my father-in-law, Jay, stayed with us for a while. Nora kept trying to make me sick by putting allergens in my food. One time, she managed to give me soybean oil, and I ended up in the ICU, almost dying. That was the last straw for Luke. He used to defend his mom, but after that, he cut her off completely. It became clear to Luke how toxic Nora was when his dad, Jay, divorced her for trying to poison me. Nora claimed she didn't mean to, but no one believed her. We even got a restraining order against her, but our peace didn't last long. For 2 years, Luke and I enjoyed life without Nora around. Then I found out I was pregnant, and we were thrilled. But I worried Nora would find out and cause trouble. The restraining order had expired, and I didn't know how to keep her away. Luke used to be my support, helping me through my fears. But then he started suggesting that maybe we should forgive Nora and let her back into our lives. One day, he even sat me down and said, "Have you thought about what I said, Ellie? Maybe we should try to reconnect with Mom. It's been years. Think about our daughter." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious, Luke? Why would I want that? Your mother nearly killed me. How can you think she'll be safe around our child?" "She's my mom, Ellie. I think she's learned from her mistake. Let's give her a chance," Luke urged. "No way, Luke. I won't let Nora hurt me or our child again. I've had enough since the first incident. She's not coming back into our lives, especially not our daughters." "You already knew, Luke. My mind's made up." I was furious with Luke for even suggesting I invite his mom to my baby shower. His sudden interest in Nora only fueled my paranoia about her harming me and the baby. I couldn't believe he'd bring her up like that. Thankfully, it seemed like Luke dropped the issue and agreed to respect my decision. Turns out, I was dead wrong. Luke didn't drop it at all. He not only disregarded my decision, but made things worse behind my back. How did I find out? Well, his dad ended up calling me about it. A few days later, Jay called me and dropped a bombshell. Ellie, sorry to spring this on you, but did you know your mother-in-law is coming to your baby shower? What? No, Jay, she's not invited. She's never welcomed back into my life. Listen, Ellie, you need to know that Luke has invited Nora to your baby shower. I was stunned. I couldn't believe my husband had gone against my wishes like that. I was overwhelmed with confusion and anger. Feeling like I couldn't breathe properly, I said to Jay, "What are you saying, Jay? Luke invited his mom after I explicitly told him not to. He promised he wouldn't." I know, Ellie. Luke's been in touch with his mom since the restraining order was lifted. I only found out yesterday. I tried to talk him out of it, but he's set on bringing Nora back into your lives. Luke's talking to Nora again? How could he betray me like this? Is he out of his mind? I'll never forgive him for this. Jay reassured me. I'll talk to him, Ellie. Nora won't harm you or the baby again. Luke's making a mistake, but I'll try to make him see reason. I won't confront him about it, Jay. It won't change anything. I want to see if he actually goes through with inviting Nora to the baby shower. If he does, I'll divorce him. I was dead serious. The betrayal by my own husband was unbearable. I couldn't believe he'd willingly bring an abuser back into our lives. At that moment, I realized I couldn't stay with Luke if he went through with it. I'd risked my life once, but now I had my daughter to think about too. There was no way I'd subject myself or her to more abuse. Since Luke had already proven himself untrustworthy, talking to him seemed pointless. I kept what I knew from him. Jay and I kept in touch, keeping each other updated. I was preparing for divorce, consulting a lawyer, and getting papers ready. I needed to be ready in case Luke actually brought Nora to the baby shower. The days leading up to it were stressful. Knowing Luke wasn't changing his mind left me in a bad state mentally. Luke was concerned about me, but I just brushed it off, claiming I wasn't feeling well. Being around him was tough. I felt betrayed. Yet, I never confronted him. I gave him chances to do right, but he didn't. So when the divorce papers arrived the day before the baby shower, I was ready to leave him for good. I was determined to show him the consequences of his actions. When Nora showed up at the baby shower with Luke, I was prepared, though seeing her still sent chills down my spine. I stepped away immediately, asking, "Why is she here, Luke? You promised she wouldn't be." "Oh, Ellie, lighten up. This is supposed to be a happy day. Let's not dwell on the past. The day was ruined the moment you brought your mother here against my wishes. How could you betray me like this, Luke? What choice did I have? You reacted badly when I asked, so I had to invite her secretly. So even after I said no, you sneaked behind my back to invite her? My safety means nothing to you, does it, Luke? Stop overreacting, Ellie. You're being unreasonable. My mom will be a great grandma, I'm sure. You believe your abusive mom will be a great grandma? Do you even hear yourself, Luke? And why are you defending her, Jay? It's been years. You should move on and accept her back. I'm tired of this. Your wife needs to grow up, Luke. Ellie, my son is right. It's time to move on. It's disappointing that you haven't matured, even with a baby on the way. My granddaughter needs a responsible parent like me. Luke, inviting me was the right thing. It seems you two need my guidance. I was stunned by Nora's words. She was actually suggesting she play a major role in raising my daughter. It was beyond belief. No sane parent would allow an abusive person like Nora anywhere near their child. I couldn't fathom Nora's audacity in thinking we'd agree to this. But what shocked me even more was Luke's lack of concern. He seemed to be on board with Nora's plan. I couldn't hold back my disbelief. What are you saying, Luke? Nora, you can't seriously expect us to let you be a big part of our daughter's life. That's not happening, I interjected firmly. Why not? She's my granddaughter, so I have a say in how she's raised, and you'll need someone to watch her, Nora replied confidently. No way, Nora. You'll never babysit my daughter. Luke and I won't let someone like you, who's been abusive, anywhere near her. Forget about that idea, I retorted. Come on, Luke agrees with me. I'd be the best choice to babysit. Given your track record, maybe I should move in after the baby's born, right, Luke? Nora added arrogantly. Luke, you need to address this now. Do you really agree with what your mother is proposing? Are you seriously considering letting her take on a parental or caregiving role with our child? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I desperately hoped my husband wouldn't actually entertain such ideas. Jay had warned me about Luke's renewed contact with Nora. But I never imagined it had escalated to this. Even Jay didn't know the extent of their discussions. As the uncomfortable silence settled among the guests at the baby shower, I wished it was all just a nightmare. But reality hit hard when Luke casually responded, "I think you're being unfair to my mom, Allie. She's a good mother and raised me well. I'm sure she'd make a great babysitter." "Are you forgetting she nearly killed me trying to prove my allergies were fake? How can you even consider her for such a role?" I shot back, incredulous. "Come on, Ellie, don't overreact. That was in the past. You need to let go and move on. Holding on to grudges won't do us any good. She's family, so you should forgive her," Luke replied dismissively. "I won't stand by while you force her presence on us. She's staying for the baby shower, and she'll be involved in our lives from now on." My husband's words hit me like a ton of bricks. He was insistent on having his abusive mother in our lives, despite the harm she'd caused. He seemed blind to the danger she posed, adamant that she'd play an active role in our daughter's life. But that was a line I refused to cross. I couldn't fathom having Nora, this deranged woman, in my life, let alone around my child. It was time for a difficult decision. All the preparations I'd made weren't for nothing, but it was hard to come to terms with. The realization that my marriage had reached this point was heartbreaking, but there was no turning back. I needed to leave this marriage, and I needed to do it now. So without another word to Luke, I calmly retreated to the study, ready to take the necessary steps to leave him. I headed to the study to retrieve the divorce papers I had prepared earlier. My hands trembled, and tears threatened to spill, but I held them back. There was no use wasting tears on a man who disregarded my feelings. So I composed myself and returned to the room where everyone was gathered for food and drinks. It felt awkward. Only Nora and Luke seemed at ease, sharing laughter and discussing our daughter's future plans. As I excused myself to the study, expecting Luke to follow, he remained behind with his mother. He likely assumed I was having another outburst and would eventually accept Nora. But he was mistaken. Returning downstairs with the papers in hand, I caught Jay's eye, who sat silently on the side. He seemed to understand what I was about to do and appeared saddened by it. Approaching my husband, who looked puzzled by the papers, and a smirking Nora, I spoke. "You've made it clear that Nora is your priority. You've shown that my child and I would have to compromise our safety to accept Nora back into our lives. Today, you've made it evident that you've chosen Nora over us, Luke." "No, Ellie, that's not what I meant. Please don't misinterpret my intentions. I'm trying to find a way for us all to get along. Mom is my family too, Ellie. You need to understand why I value her presence," Luke pleaded. "You're determined to reintroduce this abusive woman into our lives. Well then, you've made your choice. You've chosen her over us," I replied firmly. "What do you mean, Ellie?" "Here are the divorce papers, Luke. Sign them and return them to me. If you have any questions, speak to my lawyer. It's over." Luke and Nora were visibly shocked when I explained the significance of the papers. I handed them to Luke, arms crossed, as he hurriedly examined them. Yes, I had consulted a lawyer and prepared the papers in advance, ready to leave if Luke thought he could force his mother into our lives without consequence. His hands shook as he confirmed their contents, his expression a mix of disbelief and confusion. "This can't be real, Ellie. Why would you do this?" he stammered. "I prepared the divorce papers because I knew what you were doing. I found out about Nora being invited to the baby shower from your dad." "Dad, you told Ellie I invited Mom to the baby shower?" Luke questioned. "Yes, I did, Luke. Your mom boasted about her imminent return to your life, claiming the divorce was my loss since she hadn't lost her son after all. I had to tell Ellie because you disregarded her and even ignored my advice. I warned you, Luke. You should be ashamed," Jay rebuked. Luke began to grasp the gravity of his actions, though it hadn't fully sunk in yet. I could see the gears turning in his head as he glanced between me and the papers in his hands, visibly nervous. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Before Luke could respond, his mom grabbed his arm, interjecting, "No, Luke, you did the right thing by bringing me back into your life. Don't listen to your father. Jake and Ellie want to keep us apart because they're jealous of our relationship. Oh, there's nothing left to be envious of, Nora. Jay isn't your husband anymore, and I won't be your son's wife either. Congratulations, Nora, you've achieved what you wanted. Your son is all yours now," I stated bitterly. "No, Ellie, please, let's discuss this. You can't leave me like this." You can't spring divorce papers on me like this, Luke pleaded desperately. Oh really, Luke? I can't surprise you with divorce papers, but you can surprise me by reconnecting with your mother behind my back. You comforted me while I worried about your mom, but all this time you were on her side. Luke started to panic. He hurriedly moved away from his mother and tried to reach for my hand, but I avoided his touch. It was unlike me to reject physical contact, but I couldn't bear to look at him, let alone let him touch me. I kept my distance, which only heightened his anxiety. You've misunderstood, Ellie. I just wanted us all to be a family again. I didn't mean to go behind your back, he pleaded. But you did, Luke. You had a chance today when I asked you to make Nora leave, but instead you called me stubborn and immature. You insisted I forgive her because she's family. Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore, Luke, because I'm leaving you. Nora and Jay will be your only family now, I declare firmly. I can't believe this, Ellie. After what my son did today, I'm deeply ashamed of him. This isn't how I raised him. His loyalty to his mother has clouded his judgment. I can't accept a son who can't discern right from wrong. Jay expressed, his disappointment evident. Dad, please don't say that. I still need you and Ellie in my life, Luke pleaded, his voice trembling with emotion. Oh God, this isn't what I wanted, Jay lamented. You wanted your mom back, Luke, and now you have her. You should be content. Don't worry, I won't keep your daughter from you. You'll have visitation rights as determined by the court, but I won't be your concern anymore. You can enjoy your life with your mom while I provide a safe environment for our daughter, I declared firmly. Luke broke down in tears as he realized the extent of my resolve. Nora stood in a corner, visibly nervous, her grand schemes crumbling before her eyes. She likely expected Luke to coerce me into accepting her back into our lives. But now, it was clear that her son valued me more than her, a fact that unsettled her deeply. Luke, growing increasingly desperate, implored, Please, Ellie, let's calm down and talk this through. I know I made a mistake, but you need to understand why I did it. Please just give me a chance to explain. I've heard enough, Luke. You've made it clear how little you value my feelings and opinions and how little you care about me and our daughter. You should be grateful I'm allowing you to return to your beloved mother. No, Ellie, you mean more to me than my mom. Please don't leave me, Luke pleaded desperately. That's rich, Luke. If I meant more to you than your mother, you would have listened to me. There's no point trying to change my mind now. We're finished. You and your mother can leave since this party was organized by my family, who certainly didn't invite Nora. Take your mother and go, Luke. Luke broke down when I asked him to leave. He cried and begged me to reconsider. But when I remained resolute, he turned to Jay, pleading for his intervention. Meanwhile, Nora attempted to justify their actions, saying, Come on, Luke, don't act so desperate. You don't need an immature wife like Ellie. Enough, Mom, just stop talking. This is all your fault. I never should have listened to you. I let you poison my mind, and now I'm about to lose my wife, Luke retorted. Now, Luke, don't blame your mom for everything. You made the decision to invite her and defend her. There's no point trying to backtrack now. My decision stands, I reiterated firmly. No, Ellie, please, don't do this to us. Dad, please convince her to give me another chance, Luke pleaded. You're on your own, son. You've made a big mistake, and you don't have any grounds to ask for forgiveness, Jay replied, his tone firm. Luke eventually realized the magnitude of his mistake. He hadn't anticipated my immediate departure once he brought his mom into our home. It was likely Nora who assured him that everything would be fine. However, it was ultimately my husband's misguided decision to prioritize his mother over our marriage. Unfortunately for both of them, their plan didn't pan out. I had mentally prepared myself for the worst, allowing me to maintain composure despite feeling sadness and disappointment. I remained strong for the sake of my child. After repeatedly urging Luke and Nora to leave, they finally departed. Along with my thoughts, I experienced a minor breakdown. Fortunately, the presence of supportive friends and family helped me navigate through this challenging time. Although my emotions were mixed, the success of my baby shower provided some solace. Friends and loved ones rallied around me, offering their assistance in various ways. Later that evening, Luke returned, attempting to reconcile with me. However, I made it unequivocally clear that there was no path to reconciliation. Eventually, I proceeded with the divorce. I couldn't fathom remaining with someone who prioritized his abusive mother over the safety and well-being of our daughter and me. The divorce process concluded after our child was born, and despite initial resistance from Luke, it was finalized smoothly. Now, with my daughter at 9 months old, I have embraced my newfound freedom. Although Luke initially struggled with the divorce, his attempts to win me back proved futile. He severed ties with his mother, squarely placing blame for the dissolution of our marriage upon her shoulders. Nora, devastated by the fallout, never anticipated such a turn of events. I'm relieved to report that she has had no contact with my daughter, thanks to Luke's efforts to keep her away in hopes of reconciliation. Occasionally, I receive updates from Jay about Luke's struggles, and while I empathize with his situation, I'm grateful to have escaped a marriage where my boundaries were repeatedly tested and disregarded. In the end, Luke's actions backfired, resulting in